You are listening to the 2 and Out CFL podcast, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network.
In Saskatchewan, there's not a lot of, well, I mean, there is a lot of, like, oh, here's a wood tick. Like, come on.
Grab some poutine and a double-double. It's time for the 2 and Out CFL podcast.
Now they have to kick it out, and they do!
Every week, Travis Currah.
Does anybody still care about this podcast?
And Brazilian Ty.
Hunters are people, too.
Talk fantasy football, bring you the latest in CFL news, and sprinkle in a little bit of nonsense.
Are you kidding? This is unbelievable!
Ready, set, hunt!
And we are a part of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB. Brazilian Ty, how was your Canada Day?
It involved a lot of laundry and a lot of very bad food.
Very bad food, like what? Fill me in.
It was good. It was just not good for me.
Oh, okay, perfect.
So I bought $30 worth of Burger King again.
$30 at BK. Come on, what goes into this?
So usually a Bacon King with extra bacon, with a large fry and a large Coke, 2 orders of matzo sticks, 20 nuggets, and I got a spicy chicken sandwich too. I went all out because I was like, well, I'm going to be in Lac La Biche for 10 days, so I'm not going to get Burger King for 10 days. And then today we went up north of Wandering River, so on the way back to the hotel, I stopped at the Burger King that was in the Petro can and bought another $20 worth of food.
Okay, how tall are you?
5'8". I don't like where this is going at all.
5'8". I'm not going to ask you your body mass index. I can't talk. But how fast did you put that food away?
It was all gone during the rain delay.
So 2 hours. The rain delay. Did you go pick it up during the rain delay and have it done?
No, I got it before the game started. And I ate the fries, and then I started doing stuff like on the commercials.
Yeah.
And then once the rain delay hit, I'm like, okay, I've got some time, so I just crushed it. And then I figured the sooner I ate it, the better, so that I wouldn't have an upset stomach when I went to bed.
I actually considered doing a podcast during the rain delay. But now I figured, since you're in a hotel room and you turn the air conditioning off, can we just do it as long as the air delay was?
We can try. It's only like 15 degrees out, so I mean it shouldn't be too bad.
Okay, you'll survive.
Join 2 and Out for CFL Fantasy and CFL Pick'em and show Currah and Ty what you got.
They are who we thought they were!
Just click cflfantasy.tsn.ca.
Enough from talking about it. There has to be consequences.
And pick'em.cfl.ca.
Well, week 3 was an interesting one, to say the least. We started off with Winnipeg and Edmonton as the Bombers stay undefeated with a win over the Edmonton Eskimos. Now, you can't say that the Bombers ended up shutting down the Eskimos in this one because the Esks were moving the ball.
Yeah, 345 yards for Trevor Harris on 30. He threw the ball 54 times.
That's insane.
That's ridiculous. And he only rushed it 4. And then, he had 2 100-yard receivers. Greg Ellison chipped in with 73 yards. C.J. Gable had 82 on the ground and went 4 for 4 through the air. Like they spread the ball around, but they did not do anything in the red zone.
So let's see here. The Bombers had 14 first downs. Is that right?
That sounds fairly accurate.
The Eskimos' time of possession, 36 minutes and 20 seconds. And they lost 28-21, all because they couldn't finish drives. The Bomber defense shut them down when it mattered the most. And Sean White, to his point, I mean, to his credit, I guess, nailed all 7 of those field goals. But this is the problem we saw with Ottawa last year. A lot of times they were unable to finish drives. So that helped Lewis Ward get to that incredible record. I mean, if the Eskimos stay at this pace, Sean White might have a new record to break in probably 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, break a record and miss the playoffs. That'd be a great way to go into the offseason.
Oh, man. So it seems like there are now 3 receivers in Edmonton that, I mean, you wouldn't be wrong if you had any of them in your lineup with Kenny Stafford, Ricky Collins Jr., and Greg Ellingson. Trevor Harris continues to do what he was doing in Ottawa, just spreading that ball around.
Yeah, as much as the story changes, it stays the same. He's got another 3 guys that he can trust to get the ball to in Edmonton, much like he did in Ottawa. And it's becoming where Kenny Stafford wasn't exactly a very good fantasy pick last year. He'd have a game here and there, but not consistently. And these first 3 weeks have not been too shabby for Kenny Stafford. He's got 51.1 fantasy points this year, so he's averaging 17 points a night. Like that's pretty good.
Now, Matt Nichols, I mean, I guess you could say he managed to win this game.
Oh, my God.
200 yards passing, 13 of 21, but he had 3 touchdowns, and that's what really matters here. And then, hello, Lucky Whitehead. Welcome to the Canadian Football League. 7 catches, 155 yards, including a 75-yarder. And, 2 touchdowns. I think everybody was kind of looking towards Chris Matthews making his return in this game. And I know he was in a lot of fantasy lineups. He came with a lot of hype. But that really just helped open up space for Lucky Whitehead. And now the Bomber offense has a massive playmaker, which they really haven't had. I know Darvin Adams he's a great receiver. He's a deep threat, but he doesn't have the burners that Whitehead does. And he's not going to be a guy that is a threat to score a touchdown anytime he touches the ball, but that's exactly what this guy can do.
He got 34.3 fantasy points this week. The next closest guy on his team that wasn't Matt Nichols, 13.7 for Andrew Harris.
Wow!
And one of those touchdowns was a screen pass.
I mean,
did you see Nichols' reaction to that?
Yeah, I did.
It was hilarious.
That was really funny. And Harris has been, called the Eskimo Killer. And he got shut down. He really didn't get anything done. Nick Dembski was actually the leading rusher for the Bombers. He only had 3 carries. He did have a 35-yard rush, and he did have a touchdown in there. So he was the big fantasy running back for the Blue Bombers in this one. But they showed it last year that Paul LaPolice was willing to switch up the running backs. And with the amount of mileage that Harris has put on in the past, 4 or 5 years, I think it's pretty good to manage the load a little bit and get Dembski in there because he's got the talent to make plays happen.
Yeah, Harris, like I said, only 10 carries. Still had 2 catches for 17 yards and a touchdown. I mean, he's still good for 13.7 points. He's actually the second highest scoring Blue Bomber on offense, and Dembski was the second highest receiver. So, I mean, it goes to show that, well, I wouldn't exactly call it balanced, considering that one guy got 75% of your yards or passing yards. But, I mean, they somehow got the job done. I have no idea how it happened.
I'm trying to find the penalty numbers here.
They're not great. I have them here for you.
Yes, I think I just found them as well. Okay, what do you got?
I have 13 penalties for 139 yards for Edmonton and 8 for 86 for the Bombers.
I mean,
139 yards on penalties. Edmonton, clean it up. I thought that we addressed discipline in the offseason.
I don't get it because it seems like
Chris Edwards and Aaron Grimes are gone. So, yeah, I don't get it either.
It seems like Jason Moss is a different guy this year, and I'll give him credit. He just seems a lot more calm. He's not. He's like the Happy Gilmore when the lady comes
into his happy place.
But I mean, they gave up just over 300 penalty yards in the last 2 games. That's. It's
not great.
It's not improving. Well, I guess it's an improvement over last week. They improved by about 25 yards. So, I mean, if you want to look at the positives.
And what's their record?
Yeah, 2-1.
Yeah. They had every opportunity to win this game and continually shot themselves in the foot.
Yeah,
they should
totally
be 3-0.
So if the Eskimos can figure out the penalty thing, they might just be the best team in the CFL, because you know what, the defense, I mean, they, for their part, you know what, they gave up some big plays, but they limited the Bomber offense. They limited Andrew Harris. If those two big plays don't happen, I don't like the what-if game, but this is a completely different outcome.
Mm-hmm. Well, and last night on the panel, they took a look at James Franklin numbers, and they're not good.
Right.
And I believe it was Henry Burr said, you're not going to win many games in this league throwing for 211 yards a game, and it's basically Matt Nichols saying, here, hold my beer.
I mean, his efficiency was better. He had a better score than Trevor Harris, and I think it's simply just because of the scores. If you can make the scores happen, I mean, just get it into your playmakers' hands, and that's what's going to happen.
And the TDs help that too.
Yeah.
But I mean, if Nichols would have thrown it 30 or 54 times, which we'll never see, he would have had maybe more yards, because their completion percentage was like 3 points different. So I mean, just one guy finished. Well, I wouldn't say finished drives, but you could say finished drives, and Trevor Harris didn't. Once they got within 20 yards, it was the offense became anemic.
All right. Now, I know you said once they got inside, the red zone, the offense became anemic, but is that what Jason Moss was thinking at the end of the game? There's just over 2 minutes left. The Eskimos are driving on the Bombers. It's 1st and 10, and Jason Moss kicks the field goal.
It's like we've been here before.
That's exactly it. Now, Ty, I feel like you want to be a guy that would defend this decision.
What gave you that idea?
You like to think outside the box. To me, I just think Moss is just trying to be the smartest guy in the room, trying to outthink himself. To me, it's just like they had all the momentum, and maybe they did earlier in the game and they got stuffed inside the red zone. But don't you go and at least take a shot? One shot?
I would take one. Shot, kick it on 2nd down. That way, if something happens, you still have 3rd down to kick it. I totally understand, and I get leaving as much time on the clock as possible. Running 2 plays there probably burns off, passing plays maybe, let's say, between 10 and 20 seconds, right, because the clock's going to stop. And if you don't get it, you're kicking the field goal anyway. So kick the field goal and make a stop. And the defense had been able to stop everybody but Lucky Whitehead on Thursday night. So I have no problem with it, and I could not care less if people disagree with me and hate my take, because I will gladly take another suspension if it means standing up for what I believe in.
The crazy part of all this is that the defense did their job, and they actually ended up forcing a fumble, giving the Eskimos another possession, but they just couldn't capitalize.
The only thing that really, really sucks is that they were going to have to score a touchdown at some point, which they probably weren't going to do anyways. With the way they had
I almost fell over. I thought it was a stupid call, just trying to get too cute, trying to be too smart.
But why not leave as much time on the clock as possible? You got to get a field goal anyway.
The only thing
the touchdown's not guaranteed. The touchdown's not guaranteed from that distance with Sean White. That's made 99 out of.
But the field goals are almost guaranteed. You still have to take a shot. I can get not wanting to go for it on 3rd down. I mean, at least take a deep shot. I guess what I can see here, and they were talking about it a lot on the broadcast, is that the receivers were tired. Because, like we've talked about, 54 pass attempts.
Yeah, and I imagine that Trevor Harris's arm was in tip-top shape too.
So I don't know if the thought process was, okay, yes, let's get the field goal and give the offense a break. Usually you're trying to give the defense a break, but those receivers, they looked pretty blown up.
And I would assume from where they were on the field that they would be throwing into the end zone if they were going forward on first and second. They wouldn't be throwing short, because you're going to burn time that way if they're completed passes. But I have zero issue. And I read, like, oh, it didn't work in the West Final, and now he's 0-2. It's like, yeah, 2 times he's tried it. This time it almost worked out. It's a super. If he'd done it 10 times, or if he'd done it 9 times before, and he was 0 for 9, and he did it again, then it's starting to get a little ridiculous. Then you have a sample size. But 2 times, I got no issue with it. And he's putting his team in a position where they have a chance to win the football game.
Speaking of 54 passes, finish.
And I do have somebody in Coach Vic that will back me up on this. And he is a provincial football champion, don't forget.
We're talking 54 pass attempts. I kind of wonder what Matt Dunnigan had in his 700-yard game.
Oh, I had that written
you did?
down somewhere. I had it written down because they brought it up last night because Fajardo was on pace, right?
Oh, he was on pace.
Yeah, it would have been. I think Dunnigan threw something like, I want to say it was over 60 times.
Oh, okay.
I think.
I found it here. 33 of 52.
Yeah. That's a lot.
So he had less pass attempts than what Trevor Harris did in this game.
And less completions.
Oh, man. Will that ever happen again?
No. Not a chance.
I want to know the fantasy results here because Alfred Jackson actually caught 4 touchdown passes that day. You thought Eric Rogers had a big week? Let's go back in time. Alfred Jackson just popped 50.
So you know what this means now, right?
You're going to do the fantasy stats from 1994?
Now I got to find the box score for that game into the fantasy sites and put them on the website. Great.
Greatest fantasy performances of all time.
No. We're not going to do all time. I'm not going through everything.
Come on. I got to see the Russ Jackson stuff.
Oh, do you even think those box scores exist? They're probably on some not biodegradable, that paper, that old timey paper. If you expose it to air, it just disintegrates.
Let's move on to Hamilton smashing Montreal 41-10 Friday Night Football. That is 2 amazing performances from the Ticats, 105 points in 2 weeks. They are a juggernaut right now, and they're going to be playing Montreal again. I got to assume that's exactly who Montreal does not want to play, but it just looked like nothing went right for the Alouettes. I guess early on they were in it.
Tommy Campbell did get a pick, on Hamilton's first drive, right?
That's a positive.
And didn't give up the Rouge on a missed Howard Lahu field goal. And they had 9 minutes, 55 seconds of possession in the first quarter. And
that's crazy. Almost 10 minutes having the ball in the first quarter. You should probably have 3 scores.
and it was 0-0 after 1.
So I went all in. I went all in at having Brandon Banks in my lineup this week. And I was pretty happy with it, but he did everything almost in the first half. 6 catches, 136 yards, and a touchdown. Holy man.
Yeah, he was flying. And, once they got up like they did, the usage rate for I wouldn't say all the receivers, but, you're not going to see, a lot of throwing, especially when you have Sean Thomas Erlington and Jeremiah Masoli in the backfield like that. It makes it way easier to manage a lead.
Man, how about that Enoch Mwamba shutting down Dane Evans on first down, third down, forcing a fumble on third down? It feels like Mwamba has never been on a really good team. Everyone around him has not been able to. If they had Mwamba's talent, the guy would be on a juggernaut of it. Like, I kind of wish he would. Calgary's defense has taken a hit as well, but I bet you he was choked that he was not able to play on that Rough Rider defense of last year when he ended up getting let go for stupid business reasons.
Yeah, more or less, right? I don't think he blinked during that entire goal line stand. And we were watching it on TV, and I was like, this could be the time that this might be what fuels Montreal.
Right, right.
I know they're down by 12, but I mean, he makes both stops on first and second, and he makes a stop and forces the fumble on third down. It's like they might come out in the second half like as a brand new team. Turns out, nope. I mean, a 75-yard touchdown catch from Sean Thomas Arlington, and the game was over.
I mean, there were some decent performances on the Montreal side. Stanback had 13 carries for 78 yards. B.J. Cunningham had 8 catches for 93 yards. And Vernon Adams, he only had 24 pass attempts. You compare that to what Edmonton did. I mean, if he had 40 pass attempts, he might have had himself a great fantasy week. But, I mean, 13 points because of the 41 rushing yards he was able to add as well. But when you've got that Hamilton defensive line, it's not easy to make anything happen.
No, and they got to him 6 times.
Wow.
Yeah, that is a beating. And we saw Mike Riley last week get sacked 7 times in Edmonton. If you can't protect your quarterback, don't give him time. They're not going to be able to make plays. One bright spot for Montreal, though, was Jake Weineke with his first CFL touchdown. 2 catches on 3 targets, 28 yards, and the touchdown, 10.8 points. Not a bad first fantasy go-around for the young kid.
And the offensive line in Montreal is going to have a lot less experience after their game on Thursday, as Luc Brodeur-Jourdain has announced that he will be hanging up the cleats following the game. It's assumed that he's going to help out on the coaching staff.
How?
I guess they were maxed out with the new coach's cap, so why don't they just keep him on as a player? Put him on the injured
Andy
list.
Fantuz. The Andy Fantuz special. Yeah, let's go.
So maybe that's what they're going to do. Now we're circumventing the coach's cap.
Oh, isn't it a beautiful thing?
Yeah, we're going to sign players to contracts and put them on as the scratch on the game day roster, but have them as a coach.
I guarantee you that's going to happen.
Well, it might be happening in Montreal. Who knows? Or they just throw
it
them on
might
the
happen week 4. It might happen 4 weeks into having a coach's cap.
I love it, though. I love it.
Is Lou Lamoriello the GM in Montreal? Like, what's going on?
I love it. But the Ticats are humming, and they're going to maybe keep doing it in Montreal this time on Thursday, because it looks like they really don't care about the term trap game. They they just go do it.
I think the only thing that's a trap for them is the spread.
Yeah. and they are double-digit favorites this week.
They haven't had and I hate double-digit spreads. But I think if you're playing Toronto-Montreal right now and it's Hamilton, I think it's almost a guarantee. Can almost make that a lock.
Yeah, I think it's totally fair. Did they change the defensive scoring system in CFL Fantasy, I have to ask, because how are teams not getting negative here? Oh, Toronto got negative.
Oh, yeah, Toronto got negative.
But they did not get negative when Hamilton scored 64. I know some of them were defensive touchdowns and special teams, but...
But you only can lose a maximum of 4 points, depending on the score.
Okay.
So then you get a point for a sack, 2 points for a turnover.
Right. I don't know how they didn't lose points against Hamilton.
How many sacks did they get?
Well, they had a few. I know my wife picked them because she had like an extra $3,000. She's like, well, what's the worst Toronto can do? Thankfully, they scored 0 instead of losing points. But
yeah, we'll just take a quick boo here. Yeah, they had 4 sacks, so there's 4 points right there, minus the 4 they lost for allowing over.
Oh, there they go.
35 points. Bam. Green eggs and ham.
Oh, 2 and Out this week is brought to you by ATB, and they have their very own podcast called We Are Alberta. Host and ATB economist Nick Ford explores Alberta's geography, its business, organizations, and its diverse and fascinating people, all viewed through an economic lens. You can check out the podcast at atb.com/wearealberta. The last episodes were actually 2-parters about Bitcoin mines. It's all really fascinating. There's actually one in the Drumheller and one in the Medicine Hat region in Alberta. So listen to all about Bitcoin mines with We Are Alberta. It's an ATB podcast at atb.com/wearealberta. I'm really kicking myself for not throwing $100 down when Bitcoin came out, man. I'm surprised that you didn't. Do you like just throwing money at things?
I also have no idea how to invest in the stocks, so there's that.
You just like to gamble it. That's your go-to.
I don't know what you're talking about.
What's the dumbest thing you've ever bet on?
You know the game Tire Ball?
Tiger Ball?
Tire
Ball.
Yes. Like you have 2 softballs, and then you put like 2 tires without the rim, so just the rubber. I don't know how far apart they are, like 30 feet or whatever. It's kind of like horseshoes.
Oh yeah.
So
okay.
like if you hit the tire, it's a point. If you land in the tire and it bounces out, it's 2. And if you leave it in the tire, it's 3.
Yeah.
Saturday night we had a fire, and before the fire we played for $100 a game.
Wow.
And I have a sprained thumb. So that went well.
How much did you lose?
I'm down 300. I lost. We did a first to 7.
Oh, best of 7. I love it.
No, it was a race to 7.
Oh.
Yeah, so we played 11 games. And my hand hurt so much the next day.
Only you, Brazilian Ty, only you.
I know.
We move on to probably the game of the week. The Calgary Stampeders beating the BC Lions 36-32, and it was looking good for the BC Lions. And, I mean, the last time that the Stampeders lost 2 in a row in McMahon Stadium before Labor Day, I don't even know the stats there. But I had a gut feeling, and I'm going to hang my hat on this one, that BC would get John White going. And they got John White going. He was the fantasy performer on my team, and I'm gonna take credit for that call because I don't get many right.
That's very fair.
And you know what? I think I'm going to take any running back playing Calgary from now on.
Yeah, I don't know what. Well, I guess we kind of do know what's going on with that, with the losses that they've had, and.
Now the injuries to the replacements.
The injuries that are racking up to the replacements that they've put in. There is a big hole on that defensive front right now.
Man, it's not looking good. And now they're going up against William Powell, one of the toughest running back in the CFL. But Calgary's saving grace is that Saskatchewan only has like 5 days rest there. So the Riders are in a tough spot as well. At least they are staying at home for that one. And yeah, they did get John White going. He didn't have a 100-yard game or anything, but a lot of people were saying John White was done after the first 2 games of the year. But clearly that is not the case with him.
No, It looked like it was going to go downhill in a hurry. Mm-hmm. They tried to they established the run early. Mike Riley throws that pick with the pick 6 to Trey Roberson. Who else?
Yeah.
And Clay Brooks goes 3 for 3 on his challenges to that point. Gets the roughing the passer, and it escalates from there. And a quick swing pass. From Riley, and John White ends up in the end zone. They get the 2 points, and it's 8-0 early, and it's like, this isn't good for my pick'em.
So
and then it just continually got worse.
So the Lions were up 22-1, and the Stampeders were just taking undisciplined penalties. They would keep the drives alive or help BC move along, and then Bo answers with a 75-yard touchdown to who else? Eric Rogers. I think that's going to be the theme of the rest of the time talking about this game.
There's that, or there's the last minute 20, or the last 3
of the
minutes.
entire game, yeah.
Yeah, but before we, like you said, 22-1, all 22 of those points came off BC penalties. Or came off Calgary penalties, sorry. They had the roughing the passer, then Riley threw in double coverage, looking for Brian Burnham, ball probably not catchable, gets the DPI, so it's on the 1, and then a roughing the kicker penalty on a punt.
Wow.
And all of a sudden it's another first down for BC, and he finds Durant, and Durant rolls into the end zone. And then, so that makes it 21, and then they get a single on the kickoff because of another stupid unnecessary roughness penalty after the convert was missed.
Wow.
So they get a kickoff from the 50. Like I don't know what was happening there. And Dave Dickinson even said it at the half when they interviewed. I'm tired of talking about it. We got to go out there and do it. And if they're not going to play discipline, you're going to find yourself on the bench.
Yeah, and you know what? If Calgary doesn't make that stop on Riley on third down on the goal line going into halftime, even if BC takes the points there, we might be talking a little bit differently about this game.
Oh, for sure. And I know we say undisciplined, they only took 5 penalties, but 4 of them led directly to points.
So,
and if they take that field goal, and I have no problem with them going for it. You have Mike Riley; it makes perfect sense. But you know me, on the road, take the points.
Yeah, I know.
It's a completely different ballgame.
I think the craziest thing about all this is that 3 minutes and 50 seconds left in the game. Bo Levi leaves the game after a throw. And I'm not a doctor. I don't want to speculate with what happened here. And I hope it's not serious. He was at practice. But he wasn't throwing the ball on Tuesday. He was scheduled to get an MRI on Tuesday as well. I have not seen a update on what happened with the MRI or how long he's going to be out there, but I know I was worried about the state of the quarterback position across the CFL coming into the season, but Nick Arbuckle and Cody Fajardo basically shut all of that up.
Turns out we might be okay.
Oh, with 1:20 left, Arbuckle sneaks one in for a touchdown, gets the 2-point convert to who else? Eric Rogers.
Eric Rogers? Oh, yeah. The story checks out. Okay, before you go any further.
Okay.
So, they get the touchdown. There's 3 things to do on the checklist to win this game, and they are 2-point convert, onside kick, and another touchdown.
Yep.
Check. Now the onside kick. That play by Michael Klukas is unreal.
He tipped it
past the hands team. I give a lot of credit to Rene Paredes too. The perfect kick. And then who else but Eric Rogers to jump on the loose ball, right? That was ridiculous. Of course he's involved. So that's check number 2. And then why not just give Eric Rogers the hat trick? To check off the final thing. This minute and 20 was absolutely ridiculous. This no lead is safe. And they were up 21, and BC was up 21 and lost this football game. They were up 2 scores with a minute before the touchdown. So let's say with a minute 25 left, they were up 2 scores. How do you lose this football game?
And Calgary actually took more injuries during this game.
Oh, yeah. They
and before the game even.
And don't forget about before the game. So they lose Ivan McClellan, Brandon Smith, and Jawan Breskinson during the game, and Hergy Mayala was hurt in warm-ups.
Wow.
Like those are some big losses on both sides of the ball, and for them to just plug and play, and even they lost by Bo Levi Mitchell isn't even on this list. I forgot to add him, and Nick Arbuckle comes in and scores 2 touchdowns in a minute 20. That's some Reggie Miller against the Knicks stuff right there.
And here's what we're learning today: Don Jackson is now in concussion protocol.
That explains a little bit as to what was going on, because he did not seem like Don. 26 yards on 8 carries, 26 yards on 5 catches, and just, I don't want to say a non-factor, but he wasn't Don Jackson. And he came out of the game. He came out of the game a lot. Right.
And so, obviously Terry Williams is going to be the next man up there, but Jackson has not looked like the 2018 Don Jackson so far this year. And speaking of defensive end Ivan McClellan getting hurt, he tore multiple ligaments in his knee, which was also dislocated, and broke his hand on the same play.
So is he on the 6th game or the 1 game? Or are they keeping that? Are they keeping that secret?
I think they're calling it a lower body injury.
Body injury, yeah, and it's questionable because we know how much the CFL teams love to disclose injuries to make our fantasy lineup picking so much easier.
He's questionable against the Rough Riders on Saturday.
Yeah, clearly. If he was a hockey player, he'd be starting.
Yeah, I know hockey players love to say that.
It's like, I got 3 cracked ribs and a broken hand, but I'm going to try to play tonight. What? Okay. Have fun with that.
Yeah, so if I told you that Bo Levi Mitchell would leave this game with 4 minutes left and the Stampeders were trailing by 2 scores and they would still win this game, what would you say to me?
I'd be putting so much money on the BC Lions money line live betting that. And I almost did, but I had bet on Calgary at the start of the game, and I just rolled with it. So I won like $6.
Mike Riley is making Lamar Durant a star. He has a touchdown in every game so far this year, and Eric Rogers already is a star. 9 catches, 100 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 2-point conversions. But nobody's really talking about Markeith Ambles, who had 9 catches on 12 targets for 108 yards. The ball had to go to somebody, with Breskison and Mayala ending up leaving this game.
Yeah. In baseball, chicks dig the long ball, and in football, I don't know what would rhyme with touchdown, or what would go with touchdown. But if you're not scoring touchdowns, you seem to fly under the radar quite a bit.
What a Western showdown! And if that's happening in June, we've got some good football for the rest of the year, I think.
Like you said, the Riders get the crossover, and it's a Fajardo Nick Arbuckle Grey Cup. I can get behind that.
I don't want Bo to be out long term, but could you imagine? Fajardo Arbuckle.
I don't want to imagine. I want to be able to sleep at night.
I really want to compliment. I wanted to compliment the Argos. I wanted them to have a good game, but they look lost. I don't know what there is to say about them here. They lose 32-7, but they go into the storm delay down 25-0. So after the storm delay, hey, there's a positive there. The Argos and the Riders tied.
Yeah, and they didn't hit the over.
During the storm delay, I don't know if the Riders did this. I thought they should have rested more guys and just gotten ready for Calgary at that point. I know no lead is safe and everything like that, and yes, Toronto did play tougher, but you're on Saturday after a Monday game, got to play the Calgary Stampeders, a Western Division rival. You got to get ready for them right away, and just get some of the rookies in there.
I get that point, but at the same time, they're at home.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you don't have to worry about getting on a plane. It's kind of like having an actual off day. You go home after the game, you can hit the cold tub, get your treatments. You're not climbing on a plane for 3 hours and cramping up there and have to land and get treatment and all that stuff. You can just do it right there. It's no extra time added to the after game recovery. It's a short turnaround, but I think them being at home is going to be a huge advantage.
It's been since Darian Durant, which, at the end of the day isn't all that long ago, that the Riders have seen quarterback performances like this. But Cody Fajardo, 430 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, and now we've got fantasy options in Saskatchewan, which it hasn't been since the Canadian Air Force that there have been.
I sinned and took Cody Fajardo this week.
Well, I took him too.
I went against my own commandments, and it panned out because he was the highest scoring quarterback in week 3.
Unbelievable. In his second CFL start, he throws for over 400 yards. And he's mobile, too. He had some run plays there, but Shaq Evans breaks the century mark. Kyron Moore breaks the century mark and scores a touchdown. KD Cannon has 71 yards. I mean, Naaman Roosevelt, he was looked to as well. It seems like Fajardo looks to him in the really tough situations. Like, I know you're going to get smashed, but I'm going to throw it to you here anyway.
And then we wonder why he has 8 concussions.
Yeah.
He sues him. Hey, it's a suicide pass.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You look at the Toronto side of the ball, we thought Darrell Walker and James Franklin would have some. Turns out they had somewhat of chemistry. He only had 1 catch for 56 yards. He was the leading receiver.
1 catch, and he's the leading receiver.
Yeah. Amari Edwards, 50 yards on 4 catches. He was the leading fantasy receiver. And he only had Levi Noel was the leading fantasy.
And only had 31 yards.
Yeah, 6 catches and a touchdown, though. 15.1 points. It's not going to win you a lot of football games. And James Franklin, 12.4. It doesn't help much either.
The Argos, their last game was, 9 days before this one. And I know they got smashed by Hamilton. But 9 days, you're a pro team, and they looked like they had no idea what was going on. And you know what? I feel for TSN.
Corey Chamberlain didn't even know he couldn't challenge a play.
I felt bad. I mean, TSN, for their credit, they made this seem like a big deal. It is Canada Day. People are off work. They're ready to watch this game, watch a competitive game.
The panel was there.
Oh, yeah. They had the giant Canadian flag. And you know what? I think that the live mic games get better every year that they do it. I know there's some swears and things like that, but there were some cool conversations between the officials and the coaches. Although
Until they cut it out.
Yeah, I know. But sometimes it kind of looks like, what, these guys don't know what's going on? Aren't they the head coach? But
Well, let's go first where Toronto gets an illegal substitution.
Because SJ Green comes back into the game too soon.
The ref literally tells Dickinson, well, I didn't know. And then they cut the mics. It's like, yeah, no, this conversation's over. The ref said he didn't know. No, we want nothing to do with that.
But, I mean, the Argo defense, it was just 2 years ago when Chamberlain had them firing on all cylinders and winning a Grey Cup. They look lost.
And there are a lot of good, backbone pieces of that defense are gone now, too, though.
That's true.
I know they still... Cleon Lang, they still have Cleon Lang and Sean Lemon. But, Bear Woods is gone. Matt Black is gone. Just guys that showed up every day.
Marcus
Ball. They've had some pretty big losses, and could this be the year we get an 0-18?
Dude, I know they've only played 2 games, and I know that might sound like over.
But they got worse. They only scored 7.
And with all of their signings in the offseason, Toby Antigua, Chris Rainey. I mean, Rainey had a great fake out on the kick return there. Terrell Walker. I mean, Ian Wild, Micah Awe, who, man, that guy, I don't want to say anything crazy, but you got to watch this guy. He launches himself like a missile, and he can hurt some guys the way he plays. I'm not saying.
Yeah. We're not saying. We're just saying.
And I know there's some guys on the injured list, but like Tyrell Sutton and Brandon Burks and things like that. But they look like they actually don't know what they're doing. They actually really just do not look prepared. And
they look like me trying to talk to a girl at the bar.
I don't know if this is going to turn around at all. They can make a switch at quarterback if they want, but they had guys behind.
I don't know.
They had guys behind Ricky Ray. They had Trevor Harris. They had Zach Collaros at one time, and this is pre.
They had Cody Fajardo.
Oh my God! And now we are with James Franklin and McLeod Bethel Thompson. I do think that they're going to stick with Franklin here for the next little while, but I understand why people would call for a change.
Oh, and I was talking to our buddy Lance last night during the game, and I'm like, there's no way James Franklin comes out to start the second half. And he's like, it doesn't matter because Macbeth is no better. I'm like, that's a really good point.
I know when
neither one of them have played well this year.
When Macbeth came in last year, they went on kind of a little bit of a run where it looked like, hey, this guy can make things happen, and then it kind of went downhill again. And he's 31. What are they going to gain from having him in there? It's not a pretty situation in Toronto right now. And, yeah, I don't want to write a team off when they've only played 2 games. But now they're going to BC Place. And Mike Riley.
Yep.
What's the over-under there for passing yards for Mike Riley?
For pass 380.
I think that's fair, and I might take the over.
Like, I don't want to say, it's 450 yards and be a jackass about it. But 380 is a really good game. And BC lost their home opener to Winnipeg.
They did.
Right? I mean, and the way I looked at that game, I made the pick. I picked Winnipeg. It was, it's the first game of the year. Teams haven't played yet. Well, they have, but I mean, it's been preseason, so everybody's well rested. You're coming in. You can get in early, and the time change isn't such a big deal, and you can win this football game. Now, there is no way BC now is going to start with that home dominance again. They're going to win, 7 of their last 8 home games, and it's what's going to save them a playoff spot, and they can go 500 on the road.
Okay, here's looking at Toronto's schedule over the next little while.
Oh, this ought to be good.
They're home to BC on Saturday, and then they're
home to. I thought they were in BC.
Sorry.
Either way, it's a loss.
Sorry, yeah, the Argos are at home, and then they are in Winnipeg.
Loss.
In Calgary.
Oh,
come on,
James Wilder Jr. Loss.
And then in Edmonton.
Loss.
Home to Winnipeg.
Loss.
Home to Edmonton.
Loss.
And then it's touchdown Atlantic against the Alouettes. So, and that might
win.
Is that going to be the next game they win in Moncton?
That might be the lock.
That might be the only game they win.
Yeah, that might be the only game I pick them this year. We'll see if Antonio Bibkin's healthy.
Oh, it's not a good situation for Toronto right now. But you know what? Credit has to go to Stephen McAdoo. And it makes me wonder what was going on with the Rider offense last year. Does Collaros still have a job once he's good to go?
No. I know they say you can't lose your job to injury, but if the other guy is better than you, that's too bad. Sorry. And the narrative coming in was Fajardo can't throw downfield. I mean, Stephen McAdoo has been calling a completely different scheme, it seems.
He has, yeah.
With Fajardo in there compared to when Collaros is in there and stretching the field. And maybe these passes aren't being completed, but it's putting pressure on the defense, and they're getting the defensive pass interference penalties. And Shaq Evans making that catch last night like he did was unbelievable. And he only had 7 incomplete passes last night, Fajardo.
Wow.
Right, like a 77.4% completion rate. Like that, this kid. Well, I guess you can't really call him he's a kid compared to us, but and he's finally getting a shot, and he's capitalizing on it like nobody else has before. And I don't. If you go, so let's say Collaros comes back after 6 games. And let's say the Riders are 5-2, how do you give him his job back?
I want to see what Fajardo does against Western teams. And the next 3 games are against Western teams. They have Calgary, then they have a bye, and then a home-and-home with BC. And if he's still performing like this...
If he goes 2-1...
Exactly. You can't take the job away. It's a football move. It's business, man.
The only thing I could see is if he's winning but turning the ball over a ton because it's not sustainable.
Right.
Which he hasn't done yet, right? Like he hasn't turned the ball over a bunch.
Yeah,
But I mean,
that's maybe the most impressive part.
Yeah, if he throws 4 picks to 1 touchdown in all 3 of those games and still wins somehow or goes 2-1, I think when Collaros comes back, you got to give Collaros a shot because at some point, those interceptions are just going to kill you, right? I'm not saying it'll happen, but I mean, if that's the only reason I could see Collaros getting back in as a starter.
It is just.
But you can't put him in short yardage.
No,
Collaros.
No.
So he basically just he just holds a clipboard, and you just hope that he is willing to mentor Fajardo and help him. I don't necessarily know if he has a lot to learn. He probably does have a lot to learn, but he looks like he knows everything right now.
Yeah, and he's very confident, and you could tell on the live mic game. It's just such a crazy situation and a good situation for the Riders to be in right now. It's been a long time since they've put up points like this and looked that good and smooth doing it. We do have to talk about the mascot, though.
Oh, my God. What happened to Gaynor?
So this, let's be honest, this probably should have happened when the new stadium opened.
It should have never happened.
It's kind of growing on me, and maybe part of it is the Gaynor Twitter takeover on the Riders account on Tuesday.
Oh, man. I can't believe how offended some people are.
That's the funny part of this whole thing.
And I'm loving every second of it.
The fact that the Riders are now trolling their own fan base. But this is
it's so good.
This mirrors Gritty with the Flyers, right?
No, because Gritty's freaking awesome.
Did you think Gritty was awesome when you first saw it?
No.
It's everything that came after.
It's how he conducts himself. Gaynor hasn't changed, but he looks like he's been awake for 4 straight days on a binge.
He looks like Brazilian Ty.
On the Sunday morning of Grey Cup.
Thursday
Thursday morning. No, Thursday at the live show is like, can we just go home yet? No, you got to eat this butter and salt. Oh, gee, thanks. I can't wait. Just up there sweating, detoxing.
So I guess it's really tough to talk about Gaynor. I love Gaynor, but at the same time, I'm not a kid. The mascot is for the kids. But
yes,
has there ever
How does a
been...
kid not find that terrifying?
Yeah, I'm not a kid. I don't know. Maybe I'll bring my nephew to a game and introduce him to the new Gaynor and see.
Dude, he's scared of you. You think he's not going to be scared of Gaynor? and in full honesty, I was like, your nephew's like 18. Like, why would he like Gaynor? And then I remembered that you have another one.
I have two nephews, yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, my nephew is now 23, if you want to feel old.
Oh, my God. Remember when he was just that annoying kid that watched wrestling with us?
Yes, I know. And now we're the annoying people.
Now he drives us to stag parties.
So I'm trying to think, and I can't really think of another situation where a team has remodeled a mascot. I could relate to the old Gaynor because he was chubby and jolly, and now this one is fit. I can't achieve that. I can't relate to the new Gaynor.
Remember when the Oilers didn't have a mascot?
And then they brought in Lynx, Hunter the Lynx?
Yeah. I don't know which one's worse.
Come on. Hunter's worse, I think.
I don't know, man. A gopher with squinty green eyes. He just looks like he is up to something, and I don't like it. I've never seen a gopher with green eyes.
I guess I think that the new mascot kind of matches the new Diggs, but I don't like the lighter brown belly patch that comes under the jersey. That's the only thing that I'm iffy about. But
what are you looking at his gut for?
But the beloved Gaynor, I guess, is gone, and I went through a roller coaster of emotions because it's what I grew up loving, you know?
Mm-hmm. I have a feeling that costume is not in the garbage yet.
They can't bring it back.
And they might bring it back.
They can't.
They can do whatever they want.
If they have like this is the 30th anniversary of the 1989 Grey Cup, they should really have a 89 game and honor those guys and bring back the old Gaynor for that game. That Mosaic Stadium would sell out instantly.
Bring them back for that game and then just never bring back the new one and never talk about it. It'd be like new Coke and classic Coke.
Dude, they're doubling down. New Gaynor's here to stay.
Why?
Would you have liked it if they retired Gaynor and brought in a different mascot?
Like what? A magpie? Like, in Saskatchewan, there's not a lot of. Well, I mean, there is a lot of. Like, oh, here's a wood tick. Like, come on.
Now that is awesome. A wood tick. We have to end the show on that note. We both go a perfect 4-0 in Pick'em. How was your fantasy week? I ended up winning in the Canadian Football Podcast Network Fantasy Challenge against Superfan Mike.
Of course you did, because you cheated.
You cheated too.
No, that's not entirely true.
I put up 144 points, my best week of the season. 90?
I got like 90. Yeah, it wasn't great. You know, when you start a guy who you think is going to put up like 20-some points and he gets you 3.2, it's not great.
That hurts.
Or 3.6, sorry. And Roosevelt only got 8.1. Don Jackson, of course, he was in and out of the game so much, only 10.2. But I did have Cody Fajardo, which kind of made it respectable, I guess.
Yeah, my John White, 36 points. Fajardo, 32. Yeah. Thomas Erlington, or almost 28. Banks, 31. And then my Roosevelt and Bagleton had 17.1 combined, but I had exactly $40,000, so I couldn't change it.
Yeah. So Fajardo, Riley, Masoli, your top three quarterbacks. John White, Sean Thomas Erlington, and William Stanback. 16.5 is the third highest.
He's going to be an underrated guy the rest of the season, I think.
I think so too, and he's still relatively cheap.
Yeah.
Eric Rogers, 41. Lucky Whitehead.
Wow.
Actually, no, sorry. I don't want to call him Lucky right now because of the game that he had. I'm actually going to call him Rodney Darnell Whitehead Jr.
His real name.
He had 34.3 points. You know what he has for the season? 35.6.
Wow.
Yeah, so he had a big night. And then Brandon Banks at 31.2 is third highest receiver. And then it's a steep drop-off after that.
Awesome. We are a part of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB, welcoming the Eskimo Empire podcast to the Alberta Podcast Network. Love Superfan Mike, Kayla, and Empire Andrew. Good friends with them. Even if you aren't an Eskimo fan, check out their podcast. And if you go to Commonwealth Stadium for a game, stop by and see them at their tailgate. They always got cupcakes and all kinds of different food. They have different food every single game, and it's always good.
and if you can't make tailgate, there's also west of us. And if you get there, if you can find the right time to show up, it's right next to the mini donut stand.
Mini donuts, yes, sir.
For the win. And Andrew, of course, was nice enough to let me crash at his place the Wednesday night of Grey Cup, which I don't remember.
Yeah, he probably carried you in there, too. So welcome to the Alberta Podcast Network, to the Eskimo Empire Podcast. We will talk to you on Thursday as we get you ready for Week 4, which, by the way, all 4 games have tickets available on SeatGiant.ca. Alberta Podcast Network has teamed up with Seat Giant. All the games, all of the concerts, all the events on there in Canadian dollars. So you don't get surprised with any crazy conversion when you put it on your credit card. If you use the promo code APN, you'll save 5% and you'll give a little bit of support to the Alberta Podcast Network in the process. SeatGiant.ca, promo code APN, and save 5% on your ticket purchase. That puts a bow on Week 3. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening. Find more great shows like this at CF Pod Network on Twitter.